we're just incredibly busy that sometimes we actually have to turn people away because we are so overwhelmed with the amount of prospects coming in. And that's kind of an interesting problem to have, which is great, but also why I know that we're going to be growing more quickly, in the future.
You're listening to the Endless Customers podcast, brought to you by the team at Impact. Endless Customers is the proven system to become the most known and trusted brand in your market. If you want to start to learn the principles of Endless Customers and how you can implement them in your business, pick up a copy of Endless Customers, a national bestseller wherever books are sold. Ready to start implementing Endless Customers in your business? Talk to Impact about how our coaching program can help you implement Endless Customers to success. And if you want to experience Endless Customers in person, do not miss our upcoming conference, Endless Customers Live, in Chicago, March 30th through April 1st, 2026. Registration is now open. And now, onto the show. Here's your host, Alex Winter.
Today's episode shows what happens when a company stops chasing every lead and starts educating buyers long before the first sales conversation. I'm joined by Kaitlyn Pintarich. She's the president of Berry Insurance. Kaitlyn and her team have been on the Endless Customers journey for years now, using content to answer real buyer questions, set clear expectations, and build trust early in the process. By being open about cost, coverage, limitations, and fit, Berry Insurance has reshaped how prospects engage with their team and raised the quality of their sales conversations. The result has been better alignment, stronger relationships, and long-term growth. In this episode, we talk about how their approach evolved over time, what it takes to sustain the mindset as a company grows, and why committing to the Endless Customers journey for the long haul really pays off. All right, Kaitlyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I'm so excited to talk with you. You have such a great story. Also, I'm biased. I'm a Massachusetts guy. You guys are from Franklin, Mass. But for our listeners and our viewers out there, can you just set the stage, let people know who you are and a little bit about Berry Insurance and what you guys do?
So my name is Kaitlyn Pintarich. I am one of the owners of Berry Insurance. We're based in Franklin, Massachusetts, and we're a medium-sized independent insurance agency that helps consumers with their property casualty and life insurance, workers' compensation types of insurance needs.
Excellent. And it's a pretty old company. You guys have been around for a long time. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. We're just over 100 years. Wow. So we've been around for a while.
Wow. That's incredible. So yeah. Let's start a good starting point for me. Can you tell people what you were up to and what the business was like before you read the book They Ask You Answer, before you started implementing the Endless Customer system? So just paint the picture of like the before times.
So my husband and I bought the agency in 2017. And so at that point, we were in this transition of going from employees to owners and leaders and trying to figure out what that meant for us internally, but then also what it meant for guiding a vision for the agency. And so as many small business owners know, they take on many hats. And my role was to do all the marketing amongst also running the agency. And I very quickly realized that that was not going to work. And I was doing marketing and what they tell you to do in the sense of social media and put out a newsletter, but it wasn't very intentional. It wasn't very focused. And we really just didn't have a good strategy for what that content would look like. And so I was feeling a little lost at that point.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think a lot of people can relate. When you own a business, you wear a lot of hats and it can be overwhelming at times. And there's only so many things that you can do before something slips, right? So What made you realize that doing that and trying to do all the stuff and things wasn't working? And like, what were you looking for to try to help fix that? Like, what did that look like for you guys as you were going through this?
Yeah, well, so I mean, I obviously knew that I didn't have a great background in writing and content creation. And so I knew right away that I needed support in that realm, but also it became very clear to us that a lot of the conversations that we were having and a lot of the content that we were putting out was very much reactive instead of proactive. Mm-hmm. And we were repeating ourselves. Every conversation that I would hear, between our team and prospects were the same, answering the same questions over and over again. And we just didn't have a system system in place for handling that. And so once that became real apparent to me, it was very clear that we needed to, move forward with, endless customers and they ask you answer and really commit to this type of a process.
Excellent. Excellent. So once you made the decision, you're reading endless customers. It's obviously hooking up. You're getting it's connecting with you. You obviously are vibing with it. What started? Like, how did it start off? Did you go like, all right, I read the book, we're hiring a content manager, or like, what was the next or the first couple steps that you guys had in your journey with endless customers?
Yeah, I literally went to the conference and then left and said, okay, we're hiring a content manager, help me. And so that was step one. And our coach that we worked with was phenomenal. She helped me really figure out what it was that we were looking for, what we were hoping to accomplish, what our strategy was going to be. And by that process, that allowed us to hire the right person for that role. And that was incredible. And then at that point, once we had that person who's Corinne, who's now our senior marketing manager, in that position, we as a team read the entire book and walked through what that meant for us as a team and what that shift in strategy and really what the shift in conversations with our clients was going to look like and how we were going to implement it. So it was really important for me as a leader of the organization to bring the whole team into that process. It wasn't something that I wanted to, just dictate down to anybody. And so getting everybody on, to have read the book and to have bought into the process was really integral. And that started, really the momentum in, our life cycle of this
journey. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and I hear that time and time again with people that have success with endless customers and that really crush it. There's buy-in from the top. So you and leadership, that's where it starts and it trickles down through the whole organization. You have everyone read the book, you get everyone swimming in the same direction. And when that happens, some really great things happen. And Corinne, I mean, we got to give a shout out to Corinne. She's amazing. Yeah. And she's been on the show before. She's started out her journey as a content manager and now is running all the marketing for Barry and has just had an incredible journey in her own right.
Yes.
I'm
she's
curious.
Wonderful. We're incredibly thankful for her.
She's very sharp. She's just a great value add to your team. But what I want to go back. My question, what made you go like, I need to go to this conference. I need to go to the event, which is now Endless Customers Live that we have twice a year. But like, what was the turning point for you to be like, I have to go check this out?
I think it was a number of things. Timing was one of them. It was at the conference when it happened was at that point where I started to feel significant overwhelm from just having taken over the agency and trying to do all of the things and wear all of the hats. And I think it also came to the point where I realized, I just don't know enough to be able to do this correctly. And I know that I'm not doing a good job of collecting the knowledge from my team and I don't have the time to do this. And that was really the catalyst. So it was a number of things that, triggered me to say, okay, this conference sounds really interesting. I really like the vision of, answering clients' questions and being really mindful of the content that we're putting out. And I think that this is something that is going to benefit our agency so significantly in the future.
And it sounds like you were right and it was the right decision. So bravo. Yeah, bravo. That takes a lot. That takes a lot though to have the self-awareness as a leader to say like, hey, these are some of the issues I'm facing and I need to fix them or I need to do something about it and then actually take an action. So good on you. All right. So you hired your content manager, you're implementing endless customers, you're on your journey. How did that start to shape the content for your business and how you're putting content out? Because I would assume not a lot of insurance companies are really doing what you guys are doing from a content standpoint. Is that fair in saying that?
I think it has definitely increased over the years, but when we first started, for sure, there was not any other agencies that were doing the types of content and putting out the types of content that we were. And for us, what it started out as was, in our normal department meetings, our normal team meetings, we started having the conversations of, okay, what questions have your clients asked you this week? What questions have you been asked? And, what information do you have in regards to that question that we can then pull into a concise article that would help other consumers with the same questions. And doing that repeatedly is what really got us on the right track of creating consistent content. And in the beginning, we created a library of ideas of all of the questions that we were being asked, and started to ask our team, how would you answer this if you were asked it? What information do you have? And that really created that cycle for us of, okay, now it's a consistent thing. Every meeting we have, what questions are you being asked? What content are we not putting out there that clients need to know about before they, make the phone call or before they put in a quote request form?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really seems like the content has shifted into like the systems that your business run off of, and how it drives sales and how it really drives everything for your success.
Yeah, I mean, before we started, we didn't have a system, and we didn't have any way to collectively capture the knowledge of our team. It was it was just a very much reactive process. And through working on Endless Customers and They Ask You Answer, by creating this content and thereby creating a content library internally for us, now it was a much more proactive approach. And, I started to hear conversations where our team would say to clients, oh, I'll send you, this blog article that fully explains this more, and you can make a decision after you've read it. Or let me send you this video that we created that really dives deep into this, subject matter. And that, really started to make me aware that, okay, now we've really transitioned into our process, into a different type of process.
Absolutely. That's the goal. That's the dream scenario.
Yeah.
And when this comes together correctly, the results, I mean, it speaks for themselves. So I just want to get into that a little bit with the results. Yeah. How did this, when you talk about cost and price and the content that you're creating and working with the sales team, how did this drive the content to then bring in business for your company?
Yeah, so it was really interesting because, talking about price is a scary thing for most businesses, especially in the insurance industry, because it's very subjective. And as an agency, I don't have control over the cost. So talking about cost really allowed us to be very open and honest and transparent with consumers. And that allowed them to really feel more empowered in the conversations before they called. And so what we were finding is, when prospects started calling us, they were asking smarter questions. They were, more educated about the process. And a lot of them were pre-qualifying themselves from even reaching out to begin with, if they found that the cost wasn't going to fit whatever their needs were. So we started seeing a better quality of prospects coming in to us, and being able to not have to work on so many accounts that weren't going to end up being the right fit because we had already put out that content ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Assignment selling and working on building trust before you ever talk to a prospect is a game changer. Yeah. If you do it correctly, it is a game changer. And we've heard Marcus say that. We preach that here at Impact. It's a pillar in the book and in the system itself. Trust it's a principle. There's a lot of technology that changes and things that shift, but trust is something that's at our core. It's never going to change. So when people are coming in and they have this trust starting to talk to your sales team, how does that translate into conversions and your business as far as revenue, and just I'm looking for some metrics. I'm just curious how that changed and shifted your business.
I mean, we are now probably turning away more accounts than we ever have before, because we're better able to pre-qualify accounts and be able to determine if they're going to be a good fit for us based on all of the content that we've been putting out and based on what we're publishing in terms of who is the right fit for us. But also, we're starting to hear conversations coming in of saying, I read your blog article. I already know based on everything that I read, this is what I need, and I'm ready to move forward. And so it shortened the sales cycle. It became that we were able to, close our, business a lot quicker because prospects were already coming in much more educated into the process. And we'd even have prospects calling saying, oh, I read this article by Robbie. Can I talk to Robbie? And it was great because people were very engaged in the process. Or, I saw your video, and then they would go to our bio page and read all about our information on our bio page and feel like they had connected with us. So really just the whole process started creating trust, and it made things much quicker in the sales process for us.
Yeah, that's incredible. So from hearing that, how did that change your revenue? How did that help with your growth trajectory for the business?
It's really been incredible. We have grown significantly every year since we've started doing endless customers. And, it's always something that when we get visited by the carriers that we work with, they always ask, how are things going? How are you guys continuing to grow? And it's mind boggling to them that everything that we're doing is organic. We don't pay for any advertising. We don't do any direct mail or any type of traditional advertising at all, or any digital advertising. Everything comes in through our website, through our content, or word of mouth referrals. And we've been able to grow significantly. I mean, we've hired so many employees since we first started to maintain that growth. Whereas other agencies right now are being bought out. They haven't been able to figure out the system to continue to grow on their own. So it's been really phenomenal for us, and we're incredibly thankful to be on this journey.
That's wonderful to hear. And you guys have grown substantially, and it's well deserved. And I love hearing too that you're not doing the traditional tactics of like paying for ads and trying to do all these tricks and throwing money at it that doesn't really work. It's mostly all organic. It's content that you're creating and putting out there. That's I'm sure some of your competition is scratching their head going like, what are we doing wrong? That's amazing. Yeah. So you've been doing endless customers for a long time. I mean, you've been part of our ecosystem for years and years now. What would you say to people out there as far as being a leader and being in that leadership seat? How do you maintain that and over time stay consistent and continue to push endless customer system through the company and make sure that it's still working as you said, you keep growing and growing and growing. How do you do that? Because that takes some serious accountability and just like passion to make sure that something doesn't fall off, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you said. It's accountability, it's consistency. It's always making sure that you are reminding people why we're doing this and reminding, the team. So I see a lot of conversations, or I'll hear a lot of conversations where, we'll find out something new in the industry, a new coverage or a new topic. And immediately I'll say, well, have you reached out to Robbie and Corinne and sent that over to our marketing team to create content on? And we still in our meetings will ask everybody, what have you been asked? And that hasn't stopped because we always want to continue to add deeper content onto our site. So for people that are just starting out, it's a commitment, and it's not something that you can do on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis. It's something that you have to live and breathe and make a cultural shift. And then also if it's going to be something that you're going to commit to, it's got to be a buy-in from your entire team and having the right team in place to help maintain that process throughout your journey. And if you are willing to put in the work and, do the hard things like role playing and, making the hard, decisions to stay consistent and to stay at it, you will reap the rewards significantly.
Preach. Amen. I can't say anything other than heck yeah, that's so true. Also, you've been working with Impact for a long time. Why do you find value in the coaching program and in the services that we offer? And how does that play into the accountability piece for you and for your team?
So, I mean, I just love working with all of the coaches at Impact. And number one, they really hold me accountable and hold my team accountable, to make sure that we're staying aligned with what our goals are, what our strategy is. They push us and ask us the tough questions, which really make me think a lot harder into my business and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And to me, that's incredibly valuable. It's very easy to be in an industry and to attend industry conferences where you're amongst your peers and, start to get that group think going. But when you work with an impact coach, they aren't in your industry. And so they are able to challenge you and ask questions to you that you probably wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And that in and of itself is just been incredibly valuable. And I mean, we've worked with, video coaches, content coaches, business coaches, I don't even know, sales coaches at Impact. And all of them have been wonderful and have helped us grow our business.
I'm happy to hear that. That's great to hear. And I have to say, I really love and respect your perspective on having outside like having people that aren't in your industry necessarily to like come in and give you that outside perspective, because you may not be seeing things and they can bring this extra value to the table and experiences that they have that can really help you disrupt and change and shift things that maybe you wouldn't normally do if you stayed in your lane, as they say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm curious, you had mentioned earlier the conferences too, right? So I see you or I see Corinne or your team or at almost every conference, whether it's in Chicago or whether we're here in Hartford. Why do you keep coming back to those, and what's the value for you there as far as attending those meetups and hearing the coaches and Marcus and people speak and all that goes with it?
So education is super huge for me, and continuous education is really important, and is something that I really push my entire team to participate in. So going to the conferences is really important because things change, marketing changes, the way that Google tracks things change, and I can't stay on top of that 100%. My team can't stay on top of that 100%. So by attending the conferences, they're able to get the updates, get the knowledge, find out what's new, find out the trends in AI, and be able to bring that back to our entire organization and start to strategize on, what we might want to do to bring that into our process to help grow our business.
Absolutely. That's really cool to hear. So another question for you. I'm having so much fun talking with you. This is just exciting. And I have another one where I wanted to ask, where do you see Barry going to the future? We're just getting into 2026. What's the next 5 years look like for Barry Insurance, and where do you hope and envision it going?
I love this question because I think a lot about it every day. I want to continue to keep growing our organization and doing what we're doing best, which is educating our consumers and making them feel really empowered in the insurance buying decision. Mm-hmm. I envision that we're going to continue to add a few more team members on as our growth continues, and maybe even another marketing person onto our team because, our 4-person team is going to need that support as we continue to put out content and video. So my goal is to keep growing, maintaining our independent insurance agency status, and hopefully empower other insurance agencies to see what they can also do, and maybe encourage them to take on this opportunity to, do marketing on their own, to create that content on their own, and to maintain their independent status and hopefully not get bought out and not lose, their business that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that vision. So you said something in there too that just got me thinking. You have 4 people on the marketing team now. Yep. What was that like building out that team? Did you ever think you were going to have a marketing team as an insurance company? That's not usually typical. The big box ones do. If you go to Travelers here in Hartford or some of the Anthem and the big ones, of course they have marketing teams or they hire big agencies. But did you ever think that you'd have your own marketing squad?
No, absolutely not. It became real clear to me once we hired, Corinne and started writing content that it was very apparent I was going to need to expand our marketing team rather quickly. And for us, for our organization, it's very important that all of our content came from us. There's a lot of organizations out there that will offer to write blogs for insurance agencies or produce content for your business. And that's, there's a place for that. But if you want it to be authentic, if you want it to really be accurate to your industry, to your state, it's got to be owned by you. And that became very apparent. And so it was a real quick decision that once we had, somebody to write content, we also needed somebody to produce video content. And then when that started to take off, now we need somebody to maintain our, community presence and our social media presence. And now we need somebody to run all of that. So we need another content person. And I envision that's just going to keep going. I see that the amount of content that we're putting out is going to get to a point where we need to bring on more people to support that, whether that's somebody that just does video editing so that Jason can produce, or what that looks like. I don't know yet, but I look to my team to tell me, where they are in their process, in their planning, so that they can say to me, hey, look, we need this this person to fill this role. That's where we're getting to. I let them have that, authority to be able to come to me and say, now our next person that we need is going to be this. Because I don't know, I'm not producing the videos. I'm not, editing. I'm not writing. I don't know, per se what exactly they've got and how much workload they've got, but I envision that we're going to keep growing in that department.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I love what you're saying. The growth really leans back into authenticity. And you guys are so authentic with your content, and it just really speaks volumes about who you are and how you are as a business. And that's the best way to disrupt, is to keep it real. I think people today are more savvy than ever when it comes to like, oh, they just hired an agency, or, oh, this is AI and they just put this article in GPT. Like, people can tell now. So that keep it real, to have that authenticity, is a differentiator. And I think you guys do exceptionally well with that. So I hope it's okay if I ask this. Can we just very bluntly paint the picture of, like, when we started Endless Customers, we were this size doing X amount of revenue, and today we're here, just so that people can really get a sense, because the growth that you've experienced is pretty unbelievable.
When we started Endless Customers, we were probably half the size of our team. And we've probably, I would say, without, knowing all the numbers and looking at the reports, at this point, I'm going to guess that we've almost doubled our revenue.
Wow. So you've doubled the team and doubled the revenue since your embarkment and since your start with Endless Customers. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and we've turned away more prospects than ever before. It's a totally different dynamic, because not only are we writing more, but we're also turning away, way more than we ever did before.
Talk to me about that a little bit. What does that mean when you say you're turning people away? Is that not right fit? Is that not a good geographic thing? Or like, what does that translate to?
It runs the gambit. So a lot of it is not the right fit, based on all of the content that we're putting out. We can easily tell people, unfortunately, we're not the right fit for you, or this, this isn't going to work, which in the past, it wasn't that way. We would, as many small businesses, you want to write business, you want to grow.
Right.
So, there's some of that. A lot of our content, because it's out there, we'll get quote requests from people that don't live anywhere in our geographic area, or that we're licensed to sell insurance with. So in those situations, we do turn away because of, geographic location or things like that. Mm-hmm. But then also, we're just incredibly busy that sometimes we actually have to turn people away because we just can't. We are so overwhelmed with the amount of prospects coming in looking for insurance support that we can't help everybody. And that's kind of an interesting problem to have, which is great, but also why I know that we're going to be growing more quickly, in the future.
Totally. No, it sounds like a good problem to have, but also opportunity for growth into the future to help supplement. Yeah. That's really cool to hear. All right. Last question. For everybody out there that's listening and watching right now, maybe they just started reading the book. Maybe they haven't heard anything about Endless Customers. What would you say to them as a business leader as to why they should do this, or why they should check this out?
I would tell anybody that's, just starting out in this process or learning about this process, that if they really want to grow their business and have control of that growth, and have consumers and clients that they bring on that are going to have a longer lifespan with them, because they know and trust and like them and know how authentic they are, that they've got to commit to this process. Read the book, start somewhere, start with content, put it out, and get going. You absolutely have to do this.
Well said. And such a great conversation. I love chatting with you, Kaitlyn. Thank you so much for your time and for being on the show and for sharing your journey with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to have you back, because I want to hear how things progress as you move into 2026 and beyond. And am I going to see you in Chicago in the spring?
I don't know if you're going to see me, but you're definitely going to see somebody on the team.
Excellent. Well, I can't wait for that. Thank you again for your time. And for everybody out there watching and listening, this is Endless Customers. I'm your host, Alex Winter. We'll catch you on the next episode.